A very good evening and welcome to this edition of the Fourth Estate. Charles Mwangushampagi. And tonight we have a much limited panel, less by one member. I'll explain the reasons why we have a very small panel. But we have very senior journalists to help us discuss, do a review of the week in general, but we'll be picking out the major stories that made headlines. And among those, you have an incident in West Nile when parishioners decided to attack the residence of the bishop and set it ablaze over disputes that began with the death of another bishop in that diocese. Maybe we'll look a little bit at that. The debate around Parliament continues, its privileges and the members' apparent lack of concern for the people who voted for them as they claim their privileges. We'll be taking a look at that. Is Parliament just being singled out, or are there issues that need to be addressed around Parliament? And of course, it's also been the week when we see a new poverty report released by the World Bank and another report by the Uganda National Examinations Board that says at least 80% of teachers cannot answer numeracy or English questions for level 6. What does that mean? Let me introduce in studio with me tonight, of course, my colleague Onapito Ekomoloit.
Yes, Charles. Good evening.
Good evening, Ona.
How is Toro?
Toro is beautiful. I was there much of today, and
I also just came from Teso, so we are
how is
coming from different directions, meeting in the city.
Oh yeah. No, I think it's refreshing to be out of town, but exhausting to make a journey and make it back in the same day. Onapito Ekomoloit is Corporate Affairs Director of Nile Breweries SAB Miller, and is a member of this panel. And let me turn to Mr. Musazi Namiti. You say I shouldn't call you Mr.?
You shouldn't call me Mr. because I am kind of averse to titles. You should just call me Musazi. And by the way, I'm one of the few Africans who use truly African names. If you went around talking to people, men will call you Andrew. Will tell you, my name is Andrew, my name is James, my name is Sydney. There are very few Africans that use African names.
You possibly were bitten by the revolutionary bug that gave us Mama Mbabazi, Ruhakana Rugunda, Kahindo Tafiri.
Not really. When I started traveling the world,
yes,
I found that if you go, for example, to Sweden, you will find all the Swedes use Swedish names. If you go to France, it's the same story. If you go to Austria, it's the same story.
So when did you lose your English name, or whatever other language it was?
That is going to be a very long story, but I think I should say when I was in primary school.
In primary school?
Yeah.
You know what Chinua Achebe said about Africa? That is neither a fatherland nor a motherland. It's a childland. So if he's using other people's name, it's a child.
Most of the time I actually go by the name Mwangushampagi. I use Charles only occasionally, but I have a very strong attachment to it. Let me actually start with you, Musazi. Musazi worked with Al Jazeera, was a digital editor for Al Jazeera Network.
Yes,
based in Doha.
It's called Al Jazeera Media Network.
Al Jazeera Media Network.
That's what it calls it.
Until last year?
Until last year in December.
And before that?
Before that, I worked for a little-known newspaper in town called The Sunrise. And a lot of people were surprised. How did you join Al Jazeera from Sunrise to Al Jazeera? But you know, I think they asked that question because they weren't following my career path, because one of my journalism fellowships, I got it when I was at Al Jazeera, the fellowship at Oxford University. And Oxford knew I was working for the Sunrise newspaper. When Al Jazeera hired me, they knew I was working for the Sunrise newspaper. And sometimes people say you are very lucky, but I say no. This has got nothing to do with luck, because luck means good things happening to you without you doing anything to make things happen.
Okay. The Sunrise is still publishing, isn't it?
It is the oldest weekly in Uganda. That's what I call it. It was launched in September 2000, This is 2016.
It's still on the market. Okay, let me start with getting your perspectives on all the attention, all the anger that's been focused on Parliament over the last few weeks, over the vehicles. Last week we had Chris Obore. You told me you watched the show.
Yeah,
and,
I did watch the
yes,
show.
We had Chris Obore, who is Director Communications and Public Affairs of Parliament, but members of Parliament have been on various TVs. On Thursday, Ibrahim Semunjunganda, who is the opposition chief whip, and Muhammad Nsereko, who is an independent MP representing Kampala Central, were in the studio with my colleague Patrick Kamara, debating over whether they deserve these privileges or don't deserve the privileges. Is, from your perspective, this debate being directed where it should be?
I think I should say it is being directed where it should be. One of the readers of Daily Monitor wrote an article which was published on, I think, Friday, and the point he was making is that this is a desperately poor country. It has got lots of members of Parliament, 427. If
431 now.
431.
Yes.
Okay.
After the latest swearing in, which was actually also last week.
Okay.
Yes.
And there are 8 more coming.
Exactly.
New municipalities.
And the point he was making is that if you have a desperately poor country like Uganda with a very large number of MPs, and you choose to buy cars for buy cars for every single MP, you are not giving them loans. You are giving them grants. You are being unfair to an awful lot of Ugandans who can only dream about the allowances and salaries that MPs take home. So I understand why there has been a lot of noise, lots of complaints about the money that the government is going to give MPs to buy cars. But one has to look at the principal reason why people are in Parliament. They are in Parliament because they know once you get a job of an MP, you are assured of a good salary, you are assured of grants like the grants they will be getting to buy cars. So the MPs are entitled to what they are going to get because it's part of their job. But the people are not happy because they live a hard life. There are very few Ugandans who earn a fraction of what MPs in this country earn. Lots of people do not have jobs. When they get to hear that an MP is going to be given 150 million shillings to buy a car, and
on top of earning an average 20 million shillings per month.
Exactly. That, of course, is going to cause a lot of resentment. But the MPs are saying, well, this is, we didn't even tell the government to give us this much money. We got elected, and we found that
these things existed.
Exactly.
I keep asking the question, where is leadership? But, Honor, is this anger directed where it should be directed? Because I think, in my opinion, the anger is not actually directed at Parliament just for the sake of Parliament or to represent that Parliament is the most profligate of government institutions. It is the easier target to get. It is the biggest collection of elected officials, but actually people are trying to send a message to the government in general that we do not like what we see.
Precisely, they are trying to send a message to government, and I think MPs are a victim of a wrong perception about what Parliament is in terms of government. Actually, over the years, Parliament or MPs have been mistaken to be government, and I think this notion is perpetuated right from the campaigns, whereby whoever is seeking office has learned that you must position yourself as government, as the do it all, you know, the solution. So you go and campaign and actually drive the impression that when I get there, I will fix it. So the electorate has this wrong notion that MPs are government. But we all know that government has 3 branches. And the ultimate delivery of government does not come from the legislature.
So,
but most people do not understand, and the campaigns do not help them to understand. No candidate.
Hold it right
yes,
there.
Or, yes.
Hold it right there.
Yes.
If members of parliament campaign on the premise that
they are government,
that they are government and they will fix it the moment they arrive in the house,
yes,
you would expect that a collection of 231 members,
yes,
all of them fairly educated Ugandans, well-intentioned, have offered themselves for leadership, that the first things they would be focusing on in their first 4 months in office would be to try and fix it. And fixing it, in my view, you can help me understand, because Ona Peter was in Parliament actually at some time. He represented
that much I know.
Yes. Fixing it would mean to say...
Don't say I'm an apologist. I'm just giving a reality.
And you'll be getting a medal maybe tomorrow. So. No, and in my view, fixing it would be to say, what are the problems that afflict this country most, afflict the common person most, how do we fix them? That would be the debate for me.
Yeah.
But if you look at their attempts at fixing it is, give us the money, we put it in our pocket and then we'll distribute it. That's not fixing it.
Of course, it also starts that by the time they are campaigning, they get into a lot of baggage. You know, these campaigns are so draining financially. And genuinely, most members, hardly a year down the road, are still trying to recover from the financial hemorrhage of the campaigns. And there's no doubt that this money for cars and what is not entirely going to cars. It also has to patch up a lot of other things. So the whole political system, the election structure is wrong. So it's really a well-intentioned person will go and campaign, but gets into debt, gets into a lot of trappings, and by the time you come to the house, you even genuinely are not able to concentrate on what you promised to fix. You first need to fix yourself. So that is one of the problems, that the politics has gotten so distorted that it actually derails even the most serious of MPs. But even if they were serious, I think there is very little MPs could do to fix it. And you have to blame them. You have to blame the whole elected political class because they have created their own perception.
Okay.
So I think time has come for people who go for elections to either say, I don't go for it, or to be very honest and say, yes, I will go there, but I have limits to what I can do.
Now, I've been hearing the word called blackmail, whatever that means, but I've had a lot of the word blackmail being used, especially around Parliament, by MPs themselves, saying they've been set up, or the public anger has been mobilized deliberately to target the institution of Parliament, and they pointed that finger at the executive. Now, one, and when we were traveling back this evening, I came with a young man who was saying, with 2 young Ugandans who were saying, you know, the executive or the president has succeeded in making, in boxing Parliament into a corner, of course with the aid of Parliament. Do you think there is validity in this claim that they're just being set up, they're just being, no, the public anger is being mobilized against members of Parliament?
Yes and no. I think the no, first of all, is that they have had a chance to interact with the president, with the executive. They went to Chankwazi for orientation, and they could have set out clearly what they need to do together with the executive in order not to get this kind of backlash. But at the same time, yes, because on many occasions, it has been pointed out that things are not happening in your constituency because your MP is not doing the right thing. You elected the wrong people. So there's also that setting up of MPs to have that wrong perception of them as not doing, yet it's beyond their control. I mean, the money is with the executive, as Obore argued the other week, but they also have not perhaps done enough to get the executive to listen to what is affecting their people.
Musazi, let me turn back to you. Until the Forum for Democratic Change tried to push a different line, and say, no, we'll bring up a bill that says this whole thing about MPs' vehicles changes. You had, or maybe you saw, Semu Junganda, both at the press conference and in the studio here, make that argument. There seemed to be an alliance within Parliament that when it comes to the money, the only way we're going to defend this money for the cars is by saying that we are being blackmailed, we're being set up by the executive, that the public anger should be directed to the other party. But if you listen to most of the members of Parliament, be them from the opposition or from the ruling party, they seem to be speaking with one voice. Where do they find this common ground?
I think they are doing what is only to be expected, which is that if you are a member of Parliament, you've been promised 150 million shillings. Some of those MPs have never earned 50 million shillings as a lump sum. It is going to be their first time to earn 150 million shillings.
In a lump sum. They're being installments still.
So, it is only expected that they are going to say, or we need this money. The FDC is doing something that is really commendable, which is that the government should give the MPs loans as opposed to grants. Where you are employed, the company provides car loans. Where I've been working, Al Jazeera provides car loans, and I can tell you the loan that an Al Jazeera employee gets is just 70 million shillings. In Doha, you can get a good car for 70 million shillings because there are lots of car dealerships in Doha.
And that will be a brand new car.
Exactly, brand new car. In Uganda, you can't get a very good car. You can get a very good car, but not a brand new car for 70 million shillings. So one could say that there are perfectly good reasons why MPs are demanding more.
Actually, sorry to cut in. The Speaker has argued and said that if we were to buy MPs brand new cars, it would cost this country or the taxpayer 460 million shillings. I think about 460, 450 million shillings for each MP to get a brand new car.
Yeah, but then you are talking about, then you would be talking about top of the range cars. If you are going to buy MPs cars that we ordinary Ugandans use, you don't need hundreds of millions to buy an MP.
But why should they have cars that
Ugandans
use? No, look, but I think we are in a crisis on so many dimensions. One, of course, that the country, in quotes you can say, is poor. But it's also common knowledge that in all institutions, in all settings, family, otherwise, there is always a hierarchy. And privileges are not the same across the board in any structure. So what the MPs get in cars of 150 would not be out of the ordinary. It's only that maybe the money is not there.
Okay.
Or it is the money needs to be reallocated.
I'm after gentlemen.
I keep saying.
But even not, I don't even think that the money is not there. It's that the value for their service is not being felt. Because there are so many people in this town who are driving much more expensive cars.
Can we
there are two
so many people who are driving.
There are two things.
Can we take this up after a short break, Musazi? And there's an interesting article, a commentary by Joachim Buembo in the East African. He says, and it's titled "Of Pigs, Demons, and Uganda's Greedy MPs." So there's a quote that's been lifted out of the story, which I'd like to. He takes it that when the pigs, when someone in the Bible was afflicted with demons, and Jesus helped cast these demons out of them, of all of all animals, or all creatures, he decided to cast them into a flock of pigs. And these pigs ran into the lake and drowned. So all the pigs with the demons actually drowned. They're no longer available anywhere in the world. But it says the demons of financial irrationality have refused to enter the piglets, that make the annual pilgrimage to Parliament. For some reason, they just refuse. Maybe because the lake is not so near for them to end up drowning somewhere. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll be looking at the other major events that happened during the week, and particularly we'll be talking about the report of the World Bank, the poverty report, and how it ties into these demands by members of Parliament. We'll be right back. You're still watching the Fourth Estate, and we're making a roundup of the major events, or a review of the major events that dominated news headlines during the week. And of course, some of those major events don't include the routing of Chelsea by Arsenal yesterday, or Manchester United and Liverpool's splendid performance. It involves the news that dominated headlines during, within the country. Let me come back to you quickly. There's been this attempt to compare the vehicle a permanent secretary drives and what an MP ought to be driving. I find two major differences between the two institutions. One, you have only so many permanent secretaries. I think about 22.
They are per ministry.
Yes, per ministry. So there are not hundreds of permanent secretaries who need vehicles or who buy vehicles of 400 million shillings plus. Number two, a permanent secretary does not come to the voter or to the citizen and say, I understand your problems, send me to help you solve them. Right. Do you see the difference there? The MP gets elected.
Absolutely.
Primarily on them being able to convince the voter that we are part of you, we understand your problems, just send us to help you deal with them. So the first thing they do, I would expect that the MPs go to Parliament, and the first thing they do, they are rioting against the established order, and they're saying, no, don't give us this, don't give us that, let's deliver the people.
Absolutely. That's their biggest failing, and that's why the turnover in Parliament is so high. But I'm saying the main difference between the PS and an MP is that the MP has exposed he or herself to the electorate, and people know that when things are not happening, who to blame. The other one is a faceless bureaucrat, and even if he has more power in terms of determining actual delivery, people don't know them. So the right thing would be if all the people who are having cars from the state were exposed and questioned, what are they doing? Then I think maybe the outrage would go beyond the MPs.
The training doesn't help.
I was trying to make a point before the break, which is that I keep saying Uganda is a desperately poor country. However much you are going to say that MPs deserve cars of 150 million shillings, the question remains, how does this country, which is very poor, afford cars for MPs which cost 150 million shillings? Why not buy MPs cars that are reasonably cheap? And if you have to give them 150 millions, why not
Mm.
loans? Why grants? So for me,
well, the Alliance say right from the 7th Parliament, the 8th Parliament, the 9th Parliament received car grants. So what's the difference between them, the previous parliaments, and the 10th Parliament?
Well, the difference is that with each new parliament, we are seeing the amount of money that goes to buy MPs' cars rising. In the last parliament, I think it was 100 million shillings.
103 million shillings.
103 million shillings. Now it's 150 million shillings. After 5 years, it's going to be probably 250, 300 million shillings.
Adjusted for inflation, someone might argue.
Exactly, but still, you have the unanswered question, which is that where will this money come from? I was reading one of the stories in the papers, I think yesterday. The Revenue Authority hasn't paid the Civil Aviation Authority. The Revenue Authority is one of the richest organizations because it collects taxes. Its budget is really huge. If you have organizations like the Ugandan Revenue Authority having trouble to pay bills in time, that means there is a real problem with finances in this country. So I think that what the FDC is doing, saying that MPs should be given loans as opposed to car grants, is a great thing. I don't know how whether they are going to succeed, but I think they are trying to show the electorate that they actually care about Ugandans, because very many MPs.
But it's a handful of them.
Hang on a minute.
Yes.
The Sunday Vision had a story last week about MPs, and they did interview lots of them, and each one of them was saying that, we need this money as a lump sum. We are not ready to take 100 million shillings because we don't even know when the balance is going to be. So you could see that their major concern was money not coming as a lump sum. That's what they're thinking about.
Because you can't buy a car in pieces, would you?
No, but you see, Charles, if you go to bonds around this city, you are going to find decent cars costing 70 million, 8 million shillings. Why shouldn't an MP of a poor country like Uganda drive a used car for 78 million shillings? Why?
Charles,
150
for me to
million
answer that
shillings?
question, both in terms of
hold it, Honor. Let me just add to what he said, because why shouldn't an MP of a poor country like Uganda drive a used car for 70 million shillings, which is actually the Ugandan standard of new?
Exactly.
But this last week, we witnessed the release of a report by the World Bank, the poverty report for this country. And those numbers should be sobering to any serious leader at any level in this country. For a long time, you have about 9 million Ugandans, 9 to 10 million Ugandans, permanently stuck in poverty. Permanently.
Indeed, those numbers should be sobering. And just starting from the cars issue, I think the right question to ask is in terms of affordability for government and value from cars. It should go across board. There should be rationalization of all people who are benefiting from government car system in whatever form. You need to examine whether, one, the country is able to afford the cars of different types everyone has, and whether there is value from having those cars in different hands. So I really pity, I'm sorry because maybe one may say you're a former MP, but I think you are scratching the surface to isolate the MPs from the rest of the government system. Because I think there are thousands of cars bought every year from the with the treasury money, and nobody is asking the same question. That can the country afford these cars, and is there value from these cars? You will then be able to move from there to answering other questions like poverty, whether enough money is being spent on fighting poverty. Just hold on. Whether enough money is being used to fight poverty versus money being used to buy cars. Because there are all kinds of cars, really nice, cool cars being driven by so many people. Not just ministers, so many people.
Yeah, but I think it may be because of reckless spending. This government knows that it doesn't have money, but it still buys brand new cars for people that should be making do with cars that every Ugandan uses, used cars, that is. You go to a bond.
No,
there are dangers there. We did
but
a few years ago.
The question that you guys are not addressing is, if you are talking about a country that is poor, why are you talking about brand new cars?
But let me flip that question. We're talking about a report that says actually about 9 to 10 million Ugandans are permanently stuck in poverty. Another about 10 million tita on the edge. Because we track poverty by the consumption index,
Right.
They drop off and can be seen above. And when they are seen above, it means they have sold something that's dear to them. Then they have spent a little bit more. So you have about, out of 35 million Ugandans, you have about 22 million Ugandans that actually can be described as desperately poor. But how can you blame members of parliament when you have the president drives in a convoy of about 40 vehicles everywhere he goes? Whether he flies or goes by road, the convoy will be there. And actually sometimes he has more than one convoy following him on where he moves. The vice president moves with the convoy. The army commander moves with the convoy. The speaker moves with the convoy. The deputy speaker moves with the convoy. The chief justice moves with the convoy. The army commander moves with the... I mean, everybody...
Yeah, but they all can do with less cars, fewer cars, and this country would still be able to move forward.
It would dizzy your head to watch the president traveling, especially a little out of town, and just count the number of vehicles.
Which words you
Yeah,
use.
yeah.
No, don't use words like moving forward, because that movement fails.
I use the Entebbe Road once too often, because my home is on Entebbe Road, and I've lost count of the number of times I've seen President Yoweri Museveni's convoy. But I am saying that if leaders really care about Ugandans, and they have said this countless times, why is it difficult for them to lead a modest life? If you are going to have a convoy, let it have only 5 cars. You don't have to use a dozen cars, for example. The fact that they know that they are leading a poor country and they still go ahead to live an opulent lifestyle means that they probably are in politics, because they know it is politics that can give them an opulent lifestyle. Is there a disconnect between the leaders and the led? Because when you listen to the debate, yes, the young men who are throwing pigs, the article that Joachim has in the East African about the piglets at Parliament. But when you try to feel the pulse of the public anger, do you feel like there is something that connects the leaders and the led? Do the led understand, have a clear understanding of what you have called opulence of their leaders? Well, you see, the problem is that politics is such that it makes life really comfortable for politicians who claim that they are going to do ABCD for people who voted for them. Some of them don't even have the capacity to do that, because MPs, their primary responsibility is to make laws. They can't solve some of the most pressing, some of the very pressing problems in this country, like unemployment. But when they go to voters, they're going to say, we're going to fix this, and that problem. Now, it so happens that it is politicians who are going to decide how much they are going to be paid, and because they decide what they are going to be paid, it follows that they are going to earn big salaries, get car grants amounting to very many millions of shillings, and the people that they lead are merely going to complain, which is what is happening. That, you know, you are not doing much for us, and you are being paid a lot of money.
Ona, the World Bank report says that poverty levels actually in northern Uganda, eastern Uganda, the situation is desperate. Unlike maybe a bit of the south and the west, which are doing a little bit better. You come from eastern Uganda. You've represented eastern Uganda for a long time. I mean, you represented it once in parliament, and northern Uganda, and the reality of poverty in that part, in those parts of the country, is real. You can feel it. You can see it. Yes.
Yeah. Even if I had not read the World Bank report, I would definitely not argue with an assessment which says that there is much more chronic poverty levels in the east and maybe the north. I guess that those areas traditionally relied on two main sources of income. There was a cattle economy, which was traditional for centuries, and then there was cash crops like cotton, and all those things over the years have gotten decimated by wars and various conflicts. So there is really a crisis of people's ability to earn income. It doesn't matter that government has come up with all kinds of social programs. You build schools, you build the health centers, but those things, even if you have roads, there are some good roads like Lira Soroti which have been put up, but to transform that infrastructure into income in homesteads, it's not possible.
Why?
It's not possible because people have nothing to sell. There must be regular exchange of goods or services with money. So of course, much of what you call the political south enjoys advantage of crops like matoke, like coffee, which are all year round. So there are a lot of, so really the economy of the north and northeast needs to be revived as a cash economy. Even some of us who work with the entities that deal in fast-moving consumer goods, the same trend follows, that the consumption or the purchasing power in that part of the country is much lower
than the rest of the country.
Yeah.
Let's pick that up a little bit, because we need to interrogate those and actually even question why the perceived better of the south and the west. How widespread is it, and who actually does it represent? After a short commercial break, we'll be right back. To get or not to get the new cars, that is the question, according to Musalad, who's watching the show, and he says, let's move on to the next topic. That this debate will not end. Thank you very much, Ladu, for that comment. And we'll be opening our phone lines to the viewers to share with us your views and opinions, particularly focus on the poverty report, on the poverty situation in the country, and how much the leadership is doing to fix the poverty situation in this country. We'll talk about one or two other things before we end the show in the next few minutes. Musazi, if you look at I don't know if you've read the World Bank report, but the little reporting they've done, if you haven't, I'll share with you a soft copy once we get out of here. The thing is, the report is saying poverty in this country is still very high. We might have nice looking numbers presented by government that in 1990 we dropped from 56% and now we're about 13%. The question is, you can use statistics to achieve any result that you want. When you move across this country, in Buganda here, in northern Uganda, in eastern Uganda, not even the traditionally poverty-stricken good for second sections of this country like Karamoja, West Nile, very many parts of western Uganda, do you feel the 13%, that only 13% of Ugandans are in absolute poverty? That's a government statistic, by the way.
I do not, and I will give a little anecdote. In 2012, I did visit two villages where I grew up. One is in Gomba district, the other is in Rakai district. The reason I went there was just to find out what had changed there, because I was there when I was only, I think I was 10, 11. I did attend primary schools in those villages, and I can tell you, because I'm talking about just two villages out of thousands of villages in Uganda, that this is not representative of the entire country, but I just want to say that what I saw there was not great, because barely nothing had changed. there was no electricity. There was no electricity when I was growing up there. The primary school that I went to still had the structures it had when I was attending school there. There were few homes that had changed from being grass thatched to having corrugated Mabati houses. The roads are the same old roads that we used. And I do know that if you went to very many villages in this country, you're going to find the same thing. The road that takes me to my home district is Masaka Road. I look at towns like Kayabwe, Lukaya, Kamengo, Chabadaza. They've been like that for decades. Nothing has changed in those countries. I mean, in those towns. So if you have a report, whether it's from the World Bank, from the government, that says that the levels of poverty are going down, I wouldn't say that they will have concocted the figures, they've made up the figures, but I think what really matters is what you see on the ground when you go to these places. Has anything changed? We didn't have electricity in our village in Kakuto Rakai district until 2009. But I can tell you, if you go to Kakuto today, you will find that electric cables run over people's roofs and go to homes of people with money to pay for electricity.
They're not dropping off.
Exactly.
Yes.
A lot of people do not use electricity because they can't afford it, you know? And we are talking about rural electrification. We are talking about transforming this country from the current level, income level, to
middle income.
Exactly. But how is that going to be achieved?
Is that a realistic projection? Yes, I have some
I
callers, so I'll be
I would
taking them.
disagree a little. I think there have been quite a lot of positive changes. Among other places. It's only that there is also a bit of increasing inequality, whereby those who have, or those who have managed, basically it's all down to source of income. People who have sources of income have actually been able to cause many changes in terms of construction of houses and
but what is the proportion of those? What is the proportion of
so the
those
challenge
people?
is government needs to make sure that the people who especially don't have jobs, salaried jobs and what have you, who don't run businesses selling goods and services, but who are living off the land, that they have organized market for whatever they grow consistently and is able to motivate them. That's the biggest weakness. Otherwise, I think there are a lot of changes, positive changes which have happened. A lot of places have transformed. I
didn't say there are no positive changes, but on the whole, if you look at the entire country, what has really changed for the better? There are people who are leading better lives than they lived 10, 15 years ago. That is a fact. It is indisputable. But the fact remains that an awful lot of Ugandans are struggling. You have lots of unemployed people.
What I would say is you are having almost two extreme situations. You are having one situation where things are actually progressing very well, and then some are really almost reverse gear. And I think, to me, the challenge, especially I'll talk about North, Teso, Lang, whatever, post-recovery area, post-war recovery situations. Also, you have a lot of social dislocation, whereby people were in camps. There was a lot of traumatization. The social fabric of community spirit has broken down. The drive to work is also sort of been dampened by a lot of frustration over the years for some people. So you are having both social and economic problems in the countryside. So for government, the most important thing, first of all, is to make sure the social fabric sort of returns. That
would we now at this stage be discussing in this Kisanja Kona Mchezo, be discussing what government ought to do or assessing what government is doing and its effectiveness?
Of course, I've always argued on this show that I don't think the current approaches are generally delivering. Outside infrastructure, both in terms of building things, that is the biggest area where you can see visible changes. But when it comes to getting people to have income, I think still the vast majority of the current approaches are not working.
Okay, let's take some callers. I have some people who've been waiting for long. Do we have a caller? Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, sir. Your name and where you're calling from?
My name is Henry Muteve.
Yes, Henry.
I'm calling from Gayaza.
Go right ahead.
Yes, I think to appreciate the position in which the MPs find themselves, I think one needs to reflect what happened last, I think in the last parliament, where some MPs returned the money, but even in situations where MPs return the money, that money is never kind of like given maybe to cancer patients or allocated to health. Find that even if MPs take the money or reject it, it will still not help. So MPs end up taking this money because they know whether you reject it or you don't reject, still someone somewhere will still use it and it will not reach the people. So I think that MPs are in a position where they just say, let's enjoy the money, because even if we refuse, somebody somewhere will still use the money.
Thank you.
So if I was the one, I think I would take that money, go to my village and distribute as MPs do. Because even if they give it, even if they take it or they refuse it, it will still not be given to the people that need it. That's my view.
Thank you very much, Henry Mutebi from Gayaza. Hello, we have another caller?
Hello, this is Robert.
Robert, yes. Go right ahead. Where are you calling from?
From Masindi.
Masindi. Go right ahead.
I appreciate the discussion, but I think Ona needs to understand that, yes, government thinks about transforming the economy into an income economy without the best practices on how to transit the country to that level. I want to give you an example. In Masindi and other districts, you find you have leaders right from maybe LC3 up to the president's level, including technical people who don't understand its people. For example, you have a district that is doing agriculture with animal husbandry, crop husbandry, and tourism. They all don't know how to change the agriculture and the tourism into products, into income. It's happening in all these countries, in all these districts. Unless our leadership is able to understand how to change the resources available into income, that's when we'll be able to transit. So unless these methods of operational wealth creation are changed and other things, that's when we should be able to change. Otherwise, the argument of vehicles, I was surprised that some of members of parliament, even from our region, are demanding for 500 million shillings, where we don't even have a tarmac connecting the Bunyoro region. So it is about what they want to take home, not what they want to do for the people.
Thank you, Robert. Actually, if you move around the Bunyoro kingdom, Bunyoro region, maybe apart from the money that was going into Hoima recently because of the oil activities, Kivale district is desperately poor. It was split into several districts the other day. Kivale, Kakumiro, Kagadi. You have Hoima, Masindi itself, Bulisa, desperately, Kivoga here, desperately poor.
Kakumiro attended my senior one in Kakumiro.
Okay, we have another caller. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Hello.
Yes, your name and where you're calling from, sir?
Yes, good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening. How are you doing? Your name, sir?
I'm fine. Yes, I'm called to hear you.
Yes, to hear you.
Calling from Kampala.
Yes, please.
You guys talked about the executive like becoming the problem so that they abuse the MPs and arrest. But I think it is the MPs themselves doing a service to the country. Because they spend a lot of time protecting the president and the executive and delivering statements when they are completely delivering nothing. And at the end of the term, you will find them falling victims when the president remains a superstar.
Thank you very much. I think that's an interesting take. Let me pick another call. Hello?
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 Yeah.
Hello?
Sorry. Hello, I can hear you. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Your name and where you're calling from, sir?
Sharif, I'm calling from Uganda.
Yes, Sharif.
Yeah, my point is... Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, my point is that I don't believe we are that much poor. Because what I can say is that we can do almost anything if we learn to prioritize. Like we can take on actions like maybe reducing expenditure on public administration, things like reducing the number of districts.
Sharif, I think the question is, Sharif has gone off, unfortunately, but the question, I'll still put the question to him. The question is, when you look around Iganga, for example, do you see that transformation where poverty has dropped from 56% in 1990 to now about 13%, if you go by the government of Uganda figures? I don't have the World Bank report on me, so I'm not referring to that. Let me pick another caller. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, please. Your name and where you're calling from?
Yes, that is Joseph from Kampala.
Yes, Joseph, go right ahead.
Yes, for me, actually, I think I have a problem with MPs by demanding all this money to buy vehicles for 200 million.
What's your problem with that?
No. These MPs, they should know that they are coming out from this. Uganda is still, these are developing countries. We don't have that money. They should get vehicles at least for 50 million.
Who is your MP, Joseph? Who is your MP?
That's interesting.
I'm in Kampala, of course. I'm coming from Kampala Central.
Kampala Central. So Mohammed Nsereko is your MP?
Yes.
Okay.
They should get vehicles at least 50 million. They should not demand these vehicles for 200 million. These people are still poor.
Okay. Mohammed Nsereko came, said when he was on Patrick Kamara's show the other day, he said he came to Parliament driving a Land Cruiser worth much more than 200 million shillings. The first time he came into Parliament. I think he said it was about 300 million shillings. So this vehicle of 50 million. Thank you, Joseph, for your view. But we need to come back to the studio so that we end this discussion. I think Tweheyo is the one I'll pick out. There's Robert who says you need to understand the reality of what is happening on the ground. But Tweheyo says these MPs spend too much time defending the president. When it comes to an election, the attrition rate is obviously higher for them, but the president manages somehow to come back. So he abandons them there.
Yeah, of course, after Parliament, I ended up working for the president. But while in Parliament, I was actually the architect of an attempt to change the constitution to separate the executive and legislature in terms of not having ministers in Parliament and that kind of stuff.
And what happened to your bill?
Of course, it was defeated, as you'd expect, because people wanted to have it both ways, you know. They wanted to be MPs and then also be ministers. But I think there's so much fusion of the legislature and the executive, you know it. I mean, the NRM caucus, for example, is technically sort of the de facto power of Parliament. So, and everyone goes there, so, and they have to respect the chairman, the party interests. So certainly it's right that MPs cannot say that they are innocent in terms of failures of the executive, because they are part of it, so to say.
Musazi, that bit, MPs spending a lot of their time defending the president, and then Is this the way he fixes them? Now they're accusing him of blackmailing them.
Well, what I have to say is that we are expecting too much if we think MPs are going to say, give us less. We are asking for this amount, but the government, because it's a poor government, it's prepared to give this, and the MPs will say, okay, let's go with that. Because the principal reason people in these countries become politicians is because they know they will have secure jobs. I am one of the many Ugandans who think that MPs shouldn't be given that amount of money for purchasing cars, but I think we are actually wasting our time. MPs will still get that money, and those who will become MPs 5 years from now will even get more money.
Get more.
Yeah.
So if Musazi decides to go back to Kakuto and become a member of parliament, he said Chavadaza could be made into a constituency, by the way, because over the next 5 years we could have maybe 600 constituencies. So you could end up in parliament, and the money you'll be asking for would be much, much more.
Well, if I were to become a politician, and that's a big if, I think I would be doing the sort of thing that the FDC is doing.
It's just a handful of people in the FDC. I don't know how many people are siding with Semuju.
Exactly, but you know,
well,
if you believe in a cause that is really good, the number of people backing the cause doesn't matter. You have to do what you are able to do.
But even the FDC position could be seen as politicking and tokenism. They should be more blunt and say they are not taking the cars. They are not taking the money. Their party believes.
No.
Look. I mean, if you
they are saying it should be loans, not grants. So
well,
I mean,
in the Constituent Assembly.
It really takes
it happened in the Constituent Assembly. It happened, I think, in the last the NRC, and I think the 6th Parliament.
Yeah, but just to come to I think the big point about Parliament, we have talked about the size of Parliament and then the escalating expenditure around Parliament. If you really wanted an utopian situation around Parliament in this kind of in this part of the world, maybe we need to go for a volunteer Parliament if there's something like that, because it's just going to get worse. If it's an income-seeking position, which we have all agreed it is, and nobody can deny that, then people are going always to seek for more income. That's why people change jobs. That's why people negotiate for higher salaries.
But how
so
come?
Well, there is a question here. We need to get out of here. Our time is out, actually. We've overshot a little bit. Waf has a question for one. I say, is Amuria really transformed when about 70% of households are outside cash economy? Almost the same thing in our Soga, the current headquarters of poverty in Uganda.
Well, my former boss, Waf, I've told him that I don't argue with the report, but I also will not agree that nothing has changed in Amuria, because I know that's a fact, that things have changed. We talked of at least rural electrification, even if in terms of wires passing 90% of the homes, but 10% are connected.
Without dropping.
It's dropped in 10 of them. So something has changed. We can't say nothing has changed, but there's still a long way to go.
Do we have a problem? You work in the corporate world. The corporate world doesn't believe in at least.
Yeah, it doesn't believe because it's a reward.
You can't say we
rewards performance.
It
rewards performance. Unfortunately, the public world believes in. That's why you go for an election, make exchanges, and still win an election. So if people want to be like the corporate world, they should just say either you have delivered or you have not. You are out, you are in.
Gentlemen, we have missed the opportunity to have a discussion on the crisis in West Nile of the bishop. I actually, maybe we'll have an opportunity to discuss it, because it's one of those most shocking developments.
It is shocking. And to me, in summary, it actually represents a bigger problem in the country, a problem of emerging lawlessness, because government has allowed populism to allow this creep of lawlessness, because people have gotten used to freedom. And they are now starting to challenge anybody who thinks they...
The incident for me in West Nile is not isolated. But for a bishop to sit and write a letter, no, he first announced when the president was there at the opening of Mooney University and said, we have a terrorist cell in this area, when he has disagreements with some of his parishioners, and he actually put it down in writing and said we have a terrorist cell. I've heard a little bit about that story and the treatment of the late Bishop Drandua and where all this started from. But you find that the Catholic Church is reeling from crisis after crisis, which was previously unprecedented. I mean, the incident involving Archbishop Luanga transferring or stopping the services of a bishop, Father Chivuka, in Namugongo, who decides to walk away and start his own, decides to follow they call it the Eastern what? The Orthodox kind of preaching. It is a series of crises that would never have been anticipated, especially for a faith organization as close-knit or as centrally controlled as the Catholic Church.
I take your point, but I think, and this is my own personal view, nobody is supposed to subscribe to it. The church is about power and what people can get out of being in church positions. The stories that I've read about the bishop strongly suggest that he clashed with some people because there are things that he wanted to do to achieve his own selfish interests, and those people were saying no, you cannot do that. That is always going to make people clash. If the bishop was installed and said, well, I'm a new bishop here, this is what I'm going to do, and the people are happy with what he was doing, I don't think you would have the sort of problems you now have.
But yeah, of course, I think it also tells us that the church, unfortunately, is no longer insulated from the ways of the world, and people are starting to seek church positions in various denominations for material enhancement.
Exactly.
Yeah. So even some of those who challenge the incumbents in many religious institutions want to take those positions, not necessarily for spiritual purposes.
The story, for example, in the Daily Monitor on Friday, I read it closely and I could see paragraphs of this story talking about money.
Yeah, so there's a huge question about money, but the broader thing about the church and the sanctity within which we held the church as an institution. You saw bishops of the Anglican Church being chased out of Mukono because they had gone to inspect some piece of land, and you're asking yourself, we seem to be praying a lot more. This is a Sunday. We're praying a lot more. Yeah. There are too many churches. But what is happening is actually a country may be in deeper crisis. We should cut our members of parliament some bit of slack. Our time is up. We need to get out of here. Thank you very much, Musaze. Thank you very much. On Peter, congratulations on your medal. We'll be watching to see when you pick up your medal and those other 1,000 members of parliament. And then we'll bring you back here to question. We'll bring back the people giving the medals to question whether we actually
he prefers a retirement package
to a medal.
Yeah.
Our time is out. Thank you very much to you all our viewers for joining us tonight, and especially those who called in and each one who tuned in. And thank you very much to our production crew that keeps up late to deliver the show to you. From me, it's a good night.